you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Now, what's today? What's that? Yeah, last night, you guys, I never normally get to watch Teen Mom like the night that it happens, which I didn't actually watch it this morning when I was getting ready. But normally it's like days later that I finally get to watch it. So since I've actually gotten to watch it like pretty close to the time that it aired, I wanted to do a recap on what happened in this week's episode of Teen Mom. So breaking it down, we know that Bentley's been going to counseling / therapy, you know, just trying to work on how he feels about Ryan, his relationship with Ryan. They wanted Ryan to end up coming to therapy. On the episode before last, we got to see that Ryan did make that phone call to Dr. Ed to try to set up an appointment. Now, when the show starts off this episode, they're talking about how it's been a couple weeks since Bentley has given Ryan the card for him to call, and that Ryan has not made an appointment yet. So they're talking about how, you know, there may be a possibility that he won't. Just don't get your hopes up. Don't be upset. If nothing else, you've gotten something out of counseling. You've gotten something out of going to this, and we'll keep going. He has actually said, like, he enjoys it. He is getting something out of it. So he wants to continue going whether or not Ryan goes or not. Later on in the episode, we do find out that Ryan actually does call in, and they have a session where Ryan talks to Dr. Ed. When Ryan comes out of the room from his like conference call with Dr. Ed or his Zoom call, Mackenzie asked him, how did it go? We all know that Ryan was very standoffish toward this whole thing happening towards the doctor and everything, because Ryan's thoughts was, oh, Mackenzie picked this doctor, so this doctor's going to believe everything that Mackenzie has said, and he's probably not going to like me, and it's not going to go well. But Ryan walks out of the room and he says, it actually went really well. I actually like him. We talked for an hour and it was easy. The conversation flowed. So I'm happy with it. Mackenzie asked him, do you think you're going to do it again? And he says, yeah, absolutely. I think I will. She inquires about the fact that maybe they will bring Bentley in together, that it will be Bentley and Ryan one day. And he says, you know, one day it will be, but there's no set schedule. It's just going to be when the doctor feels like it's okay for that to happen. So I'm just going to tell you guys, I was so happy to see that. I've been so aggravated at Ryan just to like seeing that, because he thinks Macy come up with this idea, he don't want to do it. And it's like, who cares who come up with the idea? If it's anything that can benefit your son, why not at least take a shot at it? So seeing him do that, finding out that he made that call and that he wanted to continue moving forward with these sessions, I was like, great job, Ryan. Finally seeing you do something that can help you repair your relationship with your son. Thank you. Hallelujah. You know, that made me very happy. Now all that we can pray for is, since we know they're not going to continue to be on next season, all we can hope for is that they have continued those sessions. It got to where Ryan and Bentley could have them together, and there has been some resolve and some repairment in that relationship with those two. So I'm happy to see that. Now, Amber's part of it is where basically she's talking about how she's going to go get James and she's gonna go to Gary and Christina's house. She talks about how anytime she gets James, she goes to their house so James and Leah can have that brother-sister bonding time, and how she can see them both together as well. One thing that kind of threw me for a loop is like, you was just on the phone with Gary not too long ago kind of talking bad about his wife, and now you just want to, you know, bounce on over there like nothing happened. That's gonna have to be awkward for someone. But she talks to her mom. She says, I'm going to go. I'm going to, even if it's to go, or I think she was talking to the therapist. Never mind. She was talking to her therapist, because Amber did call her therapist to just kind of talk to him about the things that was going on, about how Leah was kind of giving her pushback and not wanting to spend time with her. But she tells her therapist, she says, I'm going to go. And even if it's just to walk in the door and say, I'm here, I love you. And if Leah takes off up the stairs and doesn't come back down for the rest of the time that I'm there, that's okay. And her therapist says, I think that's a good idea. Let her know that you're there for her, but don't be too pushy. Don't force her to stay down there with you. So I think that's a good idea. So she does go. She gets James. She goes over there. However, because James was a part of this, they could not film that situation. Like, they had to cut off filming as Amber pulled up. Something that I did wonder was, who's driving that car? We know Amber don't like to drive. And I don't think I've ever really seen, have we ever seen Amber like really drive? I don't think so. When she was with Matt always drove. When she goes anywhere with Gary drives. If she's anywhere with Christina drives. Andrew always drove. So when they pulled up at Gary's in that white, what looked like a Dodge Charger, I don't know. I think it was a Charger. whatever it was. I was wondering, who's driving that car? Is that Amber driving? But of course, it immediately shut off and said, because James is here, we couldn't film it. Now, it does show her after this meeting, after this visitation, and she's talking to the producer, and she says it was awkward. You know, she felt some resistance from Leah, and she breaks down crying, saying that it was hard. The producer did talk to her about what happened when Amber was basically kicked out of her mom's house. They talk about Amber's childhood as well. Apparently when Amber was 15, her mom kicked her out. Amber went to live with her dad, but because her dad was an alcoholic, there was a time that she was trying to leave her dad's house too. And her dad called the cops, and the cops came. And Amber said she told the cops, he's an alcoholic, he's going to kill himself, I don't want to be here. And the cop said, well, that should make you want to be here even more. And she said she looked at her dad, and her dad with tears in his eyes said, I'm sorry, Amber. And she said that's what she just wants with Leah. She wants Leah to be like, I want to be here with you. And she said she wants to look at Leah and say, I'm sorry, Leah. She kind of breaks down and she's like, I'm sorry. She said, but I just want my daughter to look at me the way I looked at my dad after he said I was sorry. So that's kind of wrapping it up with the situation with Amber and Leah. Cheyenne and Zach, they find out the results from their test to find out if their baby is going to have VLCAD. They go to the doctor and they do find out that the baby's results was negative. The baby is not at risk for having VLCAD like Ryder has. And Cheyenne talks about the relief that she does have from that, but she says she doesn't feel like she can celebrate that because Ryder does have it. So she says, I feel like if we go home and we celebrate the fact that this baby doesn't have it, then it may make Ryder feel some type of way because she does have it. So they also do the gender reveal. Before the gender reveal, Corey comes over for a visit and he's asking, you know, like, how are you guys going to do this? And she tells him they rented a helicopter, they have these poppers, and he's like, I should jump out of the plane with a parachute saying it's a boy or, you know, whatever. And she said, well, that would be really funny. I actually love seeing that dynamic between these two, the fact that they can be so cool with each other and it not be weird, you know, and it not be like flirtation that they know shouldn't be going on. It's just like, to me, it seems like Corey really just wants what's best for Cheyenne, and he just seems like a cool baby daddy to me. So they do the gender reveal and it's a boy. Helicopter goes by, you know, blue dust everywhere. They do the poppers, blue confetti everywhere. After that, it shows Zach and Cheyenne. And Zach just says that he's happy. He's happier than he's ever been. And that this could be his life for him. You know, he's like, I don't need anything else. I have you. I have Ryder. And now I have a baby boy coming. And this is all I could ever ask for. They do talk about the results of the test for a little bit. And Cheyenne basically says that she has some relief from that. And he says, good. You know, now you won't be mad all the time. And he says, but regardless, he says, I just love taking care of you and being there for you. So I thought that was sweet. Baby boy for them, no VLCAD, so things are definitely looking up in their life. I feel like Caitlyn and Tyler. I was supposed to say, I feel like I'm missing somebody. Caitlyn and Tyler, this was a very important episode for them as well. We know that they have been trying to get pregnant. They even had a few episodes back where she took pregnancy tests, and to her, she thought it was a positive. I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't see no positive. So when she was like, yep, that's a positive, and Tyler was like, what? Me too. I was like, what? Really? I don't see it. But she ended up starting her period a couple days after that. So obviously it was either a false positive or it wasn't a positive at all. And Caitlyn, just because she so badly wanted it, she was seeing that other line. However, in this episode, she talks about how she's going to see a psychic. So a psychic can tell her what's in her future. Before she sits down to meet with the psychic, she shows Tyler, or she actually tells Tyler, she says, yeah, I really just want to know if this psychic's going to tell me if I'm pregnant with a boy or a girl. And Tyler, not knowing yet that she's pregnant, goes, okay. And she kind of tosses the stick at him. So it was kind of a unique way, I guess, to say, hey, I'm pregnant. Because she wasn't like, yeah, I want the psychic to tell me if I'm going to be pregnant soon. She was like, yeah, I just want the psychic to tell me if I'm pregnant with a boy or a girl. And he's like, okay, fool, you're not pregnant yet, but okay, ask her that question anyways. And then she, you know, tosses the stick over there and it says pregnant. He's like, when did you find this out? She's like, just now. I literally just took that test. So she had taken another test, and I think she said it was like inconclusive. So she took the digital one and it immediately popped up pregnant. So after that, they talk about how if they're going to share this with family members. And she goes, you know, I know a lot of times people want to wait until they're out of that time period where they could lose the baby. She said, but honestly, I want to go ahead and tell people, because God forbid if something happens, they're going to have to be my support system. And I've always kind of felt that way too. Like, I've never understood the not telling people, because if you lose the baby, then those people never had any acknowledgement of it to begin with, you know? So it's like, anytime I found out I was pregnant, like, the only time I didn't immediately say anything was actually when I lost that baby. And it wasn't because I was waiting for a time period to get over that hump out of danger. It was just because it was my baby number 6, and I knew how my family was going to react. I knew they were going to be like, oh my God, are you serious? So I was waiting, and then we told them, and it wasn't long after we told them that I lost the baby. And for them, it didn't seem like, I think for those people, it didn't seem like it was such a big deal because they had just found out. But for me, I had known for longer, you know. So I get it, you know, like Caitlyn saying, no, I want to go ahead and tell them. Like, because if something happens, I need them to be my support system. So they come up with this cool little idea for her to get this shirt that says, if you finish reading this shirt, then you will know that I'm pregnant. And they go to their Thanksgiving dinner, and she's wearing this shirt, and she's just standing there, and everybody's eating, and Tyler's just like, seeing if anybody's going to notice. And finally, Tyler's mom like looks over the shirt, and she's like, if you're reading, and she reads it, you know, she's like, oh my God, are you serious? And obviously everybody is happy. They're hugging each other and they're excited about it. Now, they didn't really explain to Nova that she was pregnant until the miscarriage. The next day, like what seemed to be to us after Thanksgiving, we see Kale on the couch laying down, and then it shows her doing like a little confessional, and she says, I woke up from a nap today and I was bleeding. I had a miscarriage. And I just have to say, you guys, watching her after this miscarriage versus the last miscarriage, there's such a difference. There is so much growth there just watching that. You can see the growth, because this time she's like, you know, I woke up and I was bleeding, I miscarried, and, you know, she talks about how she's hurt over it. She's sad over it, and, you know, she wanted this pregnancy and it's hurting her, but she's not just breaking down uncontrollably to where she's a mess. And she talks about that too. She, you know, she's like, I've learned to control, like how I like to let it out and to not be like I was. Like last time after her miscarriage, she was suicidal. She had to be or go off to this like retreat to get some help because she was so, she just couldn't take it, you know. And she talks about the fact that like when she miscarried last time, it kind of brought her back to being 16 and giving her baby up to, you know, this couple, and she knew that they were going to raise her baby. So she says there's trauma there. When she gets pregnant, there's trauma, and then like when she loses a baby, or when she gets pregnant, I'm sure she has fear, so there is some fear of going into a trauma, you know. And then losing the baby, it brings her back to like 16 where she had to hand her baby over. So she talks about how the mind is just very weird, how it hangs on to things and it brings them out during certain circumstances. But she has grown so much in her mental health that she's able to handle this miscarriage in a way that's at least healthy for her. And it's weird to say that, because how can you deal with a miscarriage in a healthy way? You can. She did. Tyler talks about how this is hurtful for him, but his main worry was her. He was like, I immediately was like, oh God, is this going to be triggering for her? He was like, it was triggering for me, wondering if it was going to be triggering for you. But they both handled it in the best way that I've probably ever seen a couple handle a miscarriage. There was, you know, they didn't break down. She wasn't suicidal. She didn't have to go off to a facility to get help. And that just goes to show how far she has come in her mental health. So very sad situation. Another miscarriage for Kale. Let's talk about Mackenzie now. So Mackenzie's moved to Florida, and her son Bronx is really acting out. Like, he's biting the teacher. He's pooping in garages. He's hitting kids. And Mackenzie talks to Josh, and she's like, we need to get him some counseling. Josh is like, he's young. He'll grow out of it. Let me tell you something. When your kid is pooping in garages and biting people, I think it's time to call in some help, you know, some reinforcement, because that's not something you just want to wait for them to grow out of, because it can continue. And but you don't even know. They could hurt someone else's child because they're doing this. So I'm glad that Mackenzie was the advocate for her child, and she done what she felt was right. Josh was off like hunting, where he didn't even have service half the time. So she took that initiative. She got him in with a counselor, and the counselor come to their house. She spoke to Bronx, and she was like trying to figure out why he was feeling this way. And ultimately, one of the reasons that she could conclude was that his dad not being there, that he was acting out from the change of moving and then his dad not being there. So the therapist come to their house and sat down with Bronx and asked him about school, and he said he hates school, and she was trying to figure out why. She was like, you know, why do you hate school? Is it the people? Is it the teachers? What is it? And he's like, everything. So she explains to him, like, you know, you be honest with me and you talk to me about these things, and I'm going to see if I can try to fix some of this stuff for you. We didn't get to see all of the session, but after it ended, Mackenzie called Josh and kind of gave him a rundown of how it went. And ultimately what it is that there's a lot of change that's going on with Bronx, and he does not know how to express his feelings, so he's acting out. She tells Josh, like, you not being here has a big impact on him. He's upset about it. That's coming out in anger. So Josh ends up saying, I'm going to get my stuff. I'm going to get my truck. I'm going to get my tools. And I'm going to come there, and I'm going to see if I can find work there so we can work on this together. And Mackenzie says, you know, if you're going to come, and we're going to do this. Like, we're not going to have these kids seeing us fight and argue. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it right, and we're going to be a family, and we're going to help Bronx as a team. They do talk about the fact that Bronx will continue, you know, these little sessions so he can continue to get the help that he needs. And I think that's great that she done what needed to be done, because Bronx is a small child and he's hurting other kids. You know, while, yeah, that's your child, he may grow out of it. What about the damage he's doing to other kids? And how bad could it get? So I'm glad that Mackenzie done that. I'm glad to see that it's working for Bronx, that Bronx is talking to someone where he can't express his feelings, and she understands what's going on with him, so she can give Mackenzie the tools that she needs to help him and work with him. So that's it for Teen Mom. Josh comes down. He's going to move in with them. They're going to try to get their family together. Amber is just going to try to wait for Leah to come around. She's talking to her therapist. Ryan is talking to the therapist that Bentley has been talking to, and they're going to work up to sessions to have them in together. And then Cheyenne's having a boy, and he is not at risk of having a VL cat. So that's a wrap for the end. It's like the finale of Teen Mom. The reunion will be next week, you guys, and I can't wait. I can't wait for that reunion. I think I'm going to try to get Wildflower Gypsy us do a collab together where we talk about how that reunion went. But I'm going to try to get that in the works, because I know that's going to be a huge deal. That reunion is going to be crazy, because this is where Taylor and Larry almost fist fight. So I'm going to be watching that as it's going on. I'm not going to wait for a few days, and I'm probably going to go live the next day and do a collab, hopefully with Wildflower Gypsy, and we can kind of break down what happened at that reunion. You guys, make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you don't want to miss me breaking down the reunion, and you guys being able to hear, like, when I go live over like the reunion, you guys can come on and talk with me, and I can read your comments, and we can kind of break this down together on how we felt the reunion went. So if you are interested in doing that and you're not subscribed to the channel yet, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit that bell so you are notified of each time I go live. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. Bye, everyone.